Jason.
I'm Stephen.
I'm Jase.
This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and today we're back out in the shop to work on Jase's Murray tractor. What we're going to be doing today is swapping out the stock 801 Peerless transmission with a Peerless 820. One of the reasons we're doing this swap is because this transmission is starting to act up. A couple months ago, the shift keys started malfunctioning because they were getting worn down. Well, we did a video where I bought new shift keys, we replaced them, and everything's been fine up until a couple days ago. Now all of a sudden, it's making some popping and grinding noises coming out from the transmission while he's driving it slow, and then now it also won't go into fifth gear. So anyways, I've had a Murray garden tractor that I got from the local scrapyard. And the reason I got that tractor was to get the 820 out of it. This is an 820 5-speed transmission. Now, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing jacked up in the air. We're gonna take some measurements and we're gonna see if this thing is gonna fit under that chassis. All right guys, check this out. So we were taking this apart as we always do, and I noticed a drop of oil right here on the stand. And then I noticed something from the inside of the transmission banged up against the case and smashed it and popped a hole in it. You can see that metal, how it's bent down and it's cracked, that cast aluminum. So something mechanically failed inside the transmission, and that's where our problems were coming from. I thought maybe it was the shift keys again. I didn't know, but this thing's basically done. So there's no saving this, there's no salvaging it unless we want to try to weld that up. But the 820, the other reason we're putting that 820 in here is because the 820 is a way more robust and stout transmission. Let's get this thing out of here. We got both of these transmissions up on the bench, and there are some differences, but one of the main things that we were worried about is the mounting bolts lining up with the frame of the tractor. So on this one, we've got 16 1/4. We measured it on the tractor, but it's 16 1/4 from the outside to the outside on the frame where those U-bolts used to go. In this transmission, center to center on those bolt holes, we've got 16 1/4. So this surface right here is what's going to bolt up to the frame on the tractor. Now the thickness of the transmissions is very similar. The widths are very similar. The location of the brake lever is very similar. Now what's different is the location of the shifter. This one's more in the center of the unit, and this one's about an inch over to the right, looking at it. We got this thing cleaned up a little bit. I took the brake off and freed it up. We were taking some more measurements just to see what was going on, and it just so happens that the pulley that we had made for the 801 fits on the shaft the same exact way. There's no play. It fits between the snap rings just right, and everything is in the same relative place. So right about now is when we're gonna carry this thing over, and we're gonna bolt it up to the frame and see what's what. transmission is currently bolted to the stock location on the frame. We ended up using some grade 8 5/16 hardware, and it's bolted up right now. It's nice and tight, and we just test fit the 12-inch wheels, and these are the same wheels and tires that were on that garden tractor that this transmission came from. So we've got good fitment. These are 23-inch. Now, a little sneak peek, these are the tires we got for it. And I could not get these tires or anything really similar of a mud tire in 23, so I had to go 24. But I know from experience that with these on there, as long as we only have a few PSI in them, they'll sit at 23. So they should fit without having to modify the fenders. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we're gonna see if the belt is just gonna work how it did before. The same belt with the same idler pulleys. See if it fits. If not, we're gonna have to get a different belt. But if you could look right here, the old transmission, the 801, had U-bolts, and the U-bolts went around the rounded edge of the transmission, and it fit into that round shape right there. Now these are just pinched up against the mating surface of the transmission to the flat part of the frame on the bottom. I don't think I'm gonna mess with this too much. That's a very solid, that's some thick steel, probably 14 gauge. And we got washers, it's all grade 8. I think we're gonna focus on reinforcing the front of the transmission. Now when it was in the garden tractor, it had bracing on the front. So we're gonna go take that bracing off and see if we can get it to bolt up and if we can weld or bolt it to the frame up here. That way the transmission will be nice and solid, it'll be supported, and I don't have to worry about cutting this up or messing with that too much, because I thought about cutting that circular shape out of it and then welding a piece of thicker steel to it, but I really don't see the point. So, like I said, we're gonna go get some more pieces and parts, test fit this belt. We'll see you in a minute. Right now, I'm working on trying to get the shifter to work with this transmission, and it's gotta work in this slot right here. Now, I've already done a bit of fitting, and fortunately, the piece that was on this transmission in the other tractor is going to work. It fits up between the belt, and there's a hole for it there. And also, the shift rod that went in it. I took a bandsaw and just cut off the end of it that went like this. It was way too long. But now, this is all it really took. The transmission's in neutral. This lever's in neutral. That's 5th gear. That's reverse. So, all I need to do next, I want to give it a little bit of a bend, which I already started doing. But I'm going to give it a little bit of a kick right there to make it so that it can be centered on that steel block in there. And we're going to have to drill a hole for a cotter pin and weld a washer or something to stop it on this side, or just have 2 cotter pins. But also, once it comes through, we're going to heat it up with a torch, and we're going to bend a 90-degree in it, or maybe a 70 or something like that, and we're going to thread it so that we can put Jase's screwdriver handle back on. Here's that shifter rod, and I just want to give it a little bend here. I don't think it requires the torch, so I'm just going to put some leverage on it, give it a little kick, maybe a touch more. Let's see how she fits. All right, I got my shift lever all marked out. I need to bend the end of it about right there, up about 70 to 90 degrees. I'm gonna start shallower and test fit it. 90-degree bend worked out pretty good. The next thing I'm gonna do is put a washer over this first. Put it back through. So that's neutral. What I wanna do is come around here with my welder and I'm gonna tack weld that washer to where it's flat up against the shifter mechanism. And once that's welded on there, I'll drill a hole on this side and put a cotter pin through. All right, I got everything in place. I'm gonna tack weld this washer to the shift linkage. So I was able to get that washer welded on. Don't look at that little guy. I wouldn't worry about that little guy. And now what we're doing is threading this end with a 1/2" 13 die so we can put Jase's screwdriver attachment back on, his Craftsman screwdriver handle. Yeah, that little guy. I'm not sure if this is actually the right diameter metal to be threading 1/2" 13, but it's cutting.
What, Dad?
Cutting steel.
Dad, are you getting tons of extra exercise?
Oh yeah, this will put hair in your chest.
Dad, really, actually?
I think that's enough. Now all we gotta do is drill a hole over here for the cotter pin. But I'm gonna put this thing back in the tractor first to make sure we get it as tight as we can. All right, just like that, we've got our shifter. Check this out over here. That's what's going on the inside. All right, check out this screwdriver handle. All right, let me demonstrate. So it's in neutral. That's reverse. Neutral. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th gear. Now that we've got the shifter sorted out, it's time to reinforce this by bracing it. These pieces came off of the old tractor, the full-size tractor. What we're gonna do, this piece right here bolts right here. Obviously this whole thing isn't gonna fit up in there, so we're gonna start by cutting right there. We're gonna cut both of those out. We're gonna put them in place, and it looks like the top of this, where that carriage bolt hole is gonna line up with the carriage bolt slot for the old brace. And it might even touch. Let's see. Perfect, it barely even vibrated. Let's see how it fits. All right, I can't even hardly believe this, but check it out. So this goes on the other Murray, the garden tractor, and we cut off that piece that you just saw us cut off. I thought that we had to incorporate both of these holes, but it wasn't like that on the other tractor. They were only using the top one. And this thing, when you put it all the way up, that lines up still, and that carriage bolt lines up with the carriage bolt slot up in the frame of this. Stefan, if you would do the honors. Look at that.
Perfect.
Put our washer. And our nut. And then all we gotta do is bolt a bolt through there. So I'm working on the other side. As you can see, this side is bolted in, just like it used to be on the other tractor. And now this side isn't gonna be the same because the brake mechanism is right here. And I wanna retain this. So what I'm gonna do, I think, is try to flatten this out, take this bend out of it, this bend out of it, and try to make this piece straight. Either that or recreate it, cut it out of another piece of metal that's flat. And I'm just gonna go straight up to the frame here, and I'll bend a 90 up here, and then we'll put a bolt through up here. That way it's supported in 4 places. I don't wanna leave this side dangling because this transmission is a lot stronger, and this tractor only had one support over here before. It had one here before on the 801. But this one is capable of, I think, putting out a lot more torque, and I'm planning on putting a trailer hitch on this for Jase, so it's going to be experiencing more torsional force, so I'm going to support this side too. Flat enough. Let's go try it out. Look, it lines up right there.
Possible.
That is insane. All right, boys, well, I guess we figured it out. So we're gonna, one of these holes, come over here and look at this. That hole lines up right there, and it's sitting flat up on the frame up top. All right, now that we've got our bracing taken care of, we got to address the brake. So on the old transmission, on the 801, the brake lever used to sit back like this at this angle. Well, this one ain't gonna work like that. It needs to be at a forward angle to start at rest. And so the old transmission had this spring on it, and it went right through there. And being back like that, it used to hook up to the back of this brake actuator. So there happens to be a hole right there, and this just happens to line up. I'm gonna put myself a 1/4 grade 8 bolt. I already put a nut on the other side of this bolt. It's about 1.25 inch bolt. And there we go. Stefan, hit the brakes. It's got a combination clutch brake pedal. Let it go. So hit it slow. You can see right there, there's a slot with slack in this actuator. And then when it gets to a certain point, it starts to pull the brake. And it actually works. It locks up this brake rotor. So the brakes are addressed. This whole thing has been a pretty straightforward, very easy installation. The next thing we're gonna do is take this transmission back out of here because I've got to drill the hole for this bracket that we made. All right, guys, we got the transmission back out. The main reason I did that was just so I could drill this hole for the reinforcing bracket.
Got it.
Oh,
All right.
oh, he busted his knee.
That has to hurt. Go get a band-aid on it or something.
Is it bleeding?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's just.
And Dad looked at it.
I was already there, Jase.
I was there from before when I did it.
There we go.
This is.
Exceeded that down.
I think it's gonna.
We got the first one on, and I went on Amazon because I'm tired of not knowing how many PSIs are in my tires. And this is a low pressure gauge. It only goes up to 15 PSI. We're sitting at about 5.5 pounds. We're gonna leave it like that, do the next one. We're almost there, but the tires rub the fenders pretty well. So we took all the bolts out of the fenders, and we're gonna figure out how we can space the fenders up. What we gotta do is make some sort of a, I'm thinking maybe 1/4-20s, some studs that we'll put off here and put spacers behind them. So what we're gonna try to do is we took these transmission bolts out of that 801 for the case. And if you look right here, we put them in from the back, and then we ran 2 nuts down there. That's about 1/2 inch of space. Hopefully that'll be enough. Spring. We got our clearance for the tires, no more rubbing, and that's because we put 1/4 inch studs to space the fenders about 1/2 inch out. We got the battery in it. This thing's ready for testing. We're gonna let it down and take it outside. All right, Jase, you ready?
Yeah.
Fire it up. gentlemen, boys and girls, we have an 820 swap in Jase's Murray tractor. It took us about 10 hours today to get it start to finish, but that also included putting these bigger tires and spacing the fenders off. But it's very possible. It's something y'all can do in your own garage. We're definitely by no means done with this thing. We still have to blow this thing back apart, paint all the brackets. We've got to take the transmission apart. We got to lock the diff, clean all that old grease out of there. We need to put it, RTV it shut. I'm sure glad we got that old Murray garden tractor from the scrapyard because that thing has been given. It gave the transmission, it gave the rims, it's fixing to give these rims, and he's gonna get my 19s off my tractor. We're gonna put those 19 Sun Fs on this, and I got some 21s over there to put in their place. I hope y'all are enjoying these videos. I know a lot of people comment in the comment section when they see their videos playing on these big screen TVs, and right now I think we got the Lawn Boyz. I want to give a big shout out to the Lawn Boyz. What's up, boys? I highly recommend you guys go check out their channel. Those guys crack me up. They're hilarious and they do a lot of cool stuff over there. They do a lot of cool builds. They find stuff on the side of the road, fix it up. Anyway, the link will be in the description. If you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe. Once again, I'm Jason.
I'm Stefan.
I'm Jase.
This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead. See you on the next one.
Peace out, boys.